Good to, yeah, it's definitely good to see you.
It's good to be seen, man, and it's good to see you since we last saw each other in San Jose.
No, Santa Cruz, actually.
Santa Cruz, right?
Yep,
Right.
Santa Cruz.
Yeah, well,
I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree with you.
again, brother.
Good to be seen. Good to be seen on this side.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Good to be seen.
A lot of brothers don't realize it until it's taken away from them, man.
Oh my God. Who you telling? I was just having a conversation with someone about that very thing because I was, that individual who was taken away from twice. And you don't have to tell me no more. You don't have to spank me no more.
That's
I'm
right.
done.
Right.
Yeah, but
statistics show that people who do a gang of time typically don't go back. They don't recidivate. They don't reoffend because pretty much they have the same attitude as you just reflected. You ain't got to tell me twice. You ain't got to spank me again. But yeah, it's somehow society seems to be afraid of those of us, especially those of us who've done a big amount of time.
Brother, I'm sorry. My boss is calling me right now, and it's Pamela Wynn. Can I take this?
Absolutely, brother. Let's pause.
Hey, good morning, Pam. Yeah, go ahead.
So let's just jump right into it, bro, because I know you're busy. I got a bunch of things going on today, but I don't want to pass up the opportunity to have your story told. And so, as I tell everybody, man, who sits with me, platform is that my whole purpose for doing this is really trying to get the word out to encourage other people that you too can have a life of success post-incarceration, whatever that success is for you, And so if you would, maybe just jump right in and maybe tell the listeners who you are and a little bit about yourself and how you ended up on the Prison of Promise podcast.
Oh, okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Anthony Boyd. I am the Managing Director of IMPACT, which is an initiative and an organization that is an initiative of Restore Her. A little bit about me. Did about 23 years in prison, total of 23. Had no direction or clue of what I was doing post-prison. I was this 6 foot, 2.5 inch man-child who got involved in a life crime, not blaming anybody for my choices, accepting full responsibility for what I chose to do. And it landed me in prison for, again, like I said, 23 years, 18 in the state, 5 years in the feds. And the whole time I was in there, what I wanted to do was leave there better than I came in. And what I found out was in order for me to do that, I had to decide to change the way I was thinking. Because I, bought into the hype of, in order for me to be successful, I have to do this. And for me, this was selling drugs. And I made a lot of money doing it, but it cost me so much that the trade-off was not equal. Because not only did it cost me 23 years of my life, because a lot of things happened in between those times or during those times, but it cost me my relationship with family members, my relationship with my children, and it cost me time with my mom, people that I lost while being in prison. And because I was really recognizing that being here, a lot of people think, or a lot of people have said, prison saved me. I don't know if prison saved me or not. I do know that I truly believe I probably could have learned them same darn things that prison forced me to sit down and learn. I probably could have learned them out in the streets had I been listening.
Yes, sir.
Because people were trying to tell me some things, but I wasn't paying attention to them. I was hearing them, but I really wasn't listening to them.
Mm.
And in there, prison forced me to sit down, and not just sit down, but sit down and reflect, take the time out to reflect on my life. Now, keep in mind, you have to adapt to that environment, because everything I knew in the streets prior to was not the same things that I had to deal with while in prison. That was a whole new world, which is why we always would tell each other, once I get back out into the world, because they were two separate places. But I had decided while in there, I was going to do things differently. And in order, for me to do things differently, I realized I had to start thinking differently. And then I began to notice that I didn't know a lot about who I was, nor what it meant to be me, especially a Black man.
Wow, man, you're dropping it, man.
And so that's when I began to understand that one of the reasons I was running into so much difficulty in the streets when I was out in the world was because I didn't know who I was and who I was supposed to be in that world. Prison forced me to want to learn about me. Again, not just me, but me as a Black man and what that Black man was supposed to mean to his community. Because before then, I was destroying it. In there, it made me think about like many of us, yourself included, all the wrong that I was doing to destroy it. All I wanted to do then, once I got out, was help rebuild it. I wanted to be a positive influence and have a positive impact versus continuing to help destroy it. So when I came into that knowledge, we call it, we call it being conscious, coming into the knowledge of self.
Yes, sir.
Once I learned that, I'm like, never again. I made myself promises about things I would no longer do. I would no longer be abusive. I would no longer be a womanizer. I would no longer hurt especially anybody Black, unless it's in the defense of my life or someone I love's life.
Mm-hmm.
I was never going to be a detriment and a cancer to the community. I had chosen to be one of the people who was going to or continue uplifting the community. So that was very important for me. Very important to me to be that man. Now, have I always succeeded? Absolutely not, but that's the beauty of growing.
Humans are fallible.
Exactly, continuing to grow. And I know, I'll never learn all that I need to know in this lifetime, but I also know if I could, it would take me a lifetime to learn.
Absolutely.
So
that's heavy.
And how you and I, how I came to come on this, to be a part of this podcast is that you and I met at a convening in Santa Cruz, California, 3-day convening, where we were all invited to come to because we all took part in some way, shape, form, or fashion, a documentary that is being that is coming into fruition eventually by Sarah Schraub, and she, I think, is the co-director or the director of the End of Isolation tour.
Yeah, she's the director.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they, they went to they took this play across the country and stopped in different cities to perform the play, and reached out to some people in the city that they knew of to interview while in their city. And I was one of the people in Detroit that they reached out to, and I had an interview with them to be part of the documentary, and got an opportunity while in Santa Cruz to meet people such as yourself and a plethora of other great individuals who were similarly situated, all who did time and came out and wanted to do it differently.
Just as you say, no longer be a cancer.
And no longer be a cancer. They wanted to do it differently. So yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, yeah, right on. And that's a great introduction to yourself, man, to our listeners. And so thank you for that. And
Appreciate it, brother.
as you were running through that, man, you were dropping some heavy jewels. You were saying a lot of things that were very consistent with my own experience of incarceration and changing my trajectory, changing how I think, and looking forward to living a different life once I touch down. A couple things though I want to maybe follow up on is one of the things you said is, you wanted to leave better than when you came into prison. And as we know, many people leave prison in worse condition than when they came in. And oftentimes people are coming into prison in pretty busted conditions,
Yes.
So what was it that made you say, I want to do something different? At what point during your incarceration, and what encouraged you to do that? Well, think that.
When it was in pretty much the very beginning of my incarceration, because I had made a choice to sit at the feet of some very powerful and influential men. And what I mean by powerful and influential, it wasn't that they were in these lifestyles that I wanted to be a part of. They had just taken the steps necessary to become the men that they always wanted to be. So they afforded me the opportunity to sit at their feet and learn. And when I saw that, when I looked at them and heard about their lives prior to prison and what they learned while in prison, I wanted some of that as well. And I knew I had to sit still, I had to be willing to sit still and hear them out.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of what I was hearing was bittersweet. You know how we had to bite our lip like, because they did something, exactly. They did something that we chose that was very hard for us to do on the out. And that was take the time necessary and apply that brutal honesty to that introspection, to looking deep within inside themselves and deciding if they like what they saw. See, I got to the point I didn't like what I was seeing in the mirror. I didn't like who I was seeing.
Yeah, man. Michael Jackson.
It wasn't just my reflection anymore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Start with the man in the mirror. I didn't like me. I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like my behavior. I didn't like how I was treating people, but I didn't know how to stop it. In prison, sitting at the feet of these men helped me to understand what it was going to take for me to stop him. Now, is he gone? Absolutely not. But I keep him under, not only under surveillance, but I keep him under submission.
Absolutely.
You
only could do that because you know better.
I know better. Like they say, when you know better, you do better. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do better. So I took the time out to figure out what I needed to do to be better.
Yeah, yeah. And that sounds, so very reminiscent. And I like to tell people that while I was in prison, I got the most intensive mentoring that I've ever had in my life.
Absolutely.
Though there were people in my life while I was growing up that were talking to me and I was hearing them, it wasn't until I was in the penitentiary that I began to listen, because like you, I realized I did not like myself. I did not like what I was doing, what I was seeing, and how I was behaving, and I wanted to change it,
Absolutely.
Penitentiary hurt too much. I knew I was getting out, and I said, once I get out, I can't come back.
Man. Being there, I tell people all the time, prison, I took trauma into prison. I took what I had experienced in my life up until that time, in that trauma, I took it into prison with me.
It's so consistent with many of us who've been in prison. We come from some history of trauma.
Absolutely.
Experiences, yeah.
Absolutely. And prison, for me, prison only exacerbated that trauma.
Yes, sir. Because it's a
Um,
traumatic experience itself.
oh my God. And if it had not been for some of those men, and not just men who were similarly situated, but I learned a lot from a select few guards as well, men and women, you know, that still managed to see me as a human being.
You were learning to listen,
Exactly.
so you were able to pick
Exactly.
it up.
I was able to pick it up. Exactly. And that helped me to this very, that continues to help me to this very day, because it allows me to see people not for what they've done, but for what they're going through and what they've been through.
Yeah,
That's the thing that I look at. That's how I look at people now. Because when I see people doing these crazy, what we now perceive as being crazy things,
yeah.
first thing I ask is, what have they been through?
Yep.
Because we don't wake up wanting to do these crazy things.
Right,
No,
right.
these crazy things just happen because of what we either mainly because of what we've gone through.
Right. Not what's wrong with them, but
exactly
what happened to them?
What happened? And that's what I asked. What happened? Because no one ever asked that about me. They just saw, you know, this, what they perceived to be this crazy individual. But no one ever asked me, what happened? And when someone finally did, I'm like, wow, first of all, no one has ever asked me that.
Yeah.
And secondly, no one has ever helped me to see it for myself.
Yeah.
And that was helpful.
And that humanizes you too, you know, because the whole penitentiary experience just, it breaks us down to the point where our humanity is forgotten, ignored, and many of us forget our own humanity and become animalistic in so many ways. And so it's wonderful when we hear these stories such as yours, mine, and plenty of other people who have been on this podcast, and many others who I probably won't get to ever interview, but who learn to be in touch with their humanity by one means or another. And I think that that has been the saving grace, you know.
Absolutely.
But tell me this, man, can you talk a little bit about how you began to envision your life after prison, even though you knew you had a gang of time to do?
Yeah, you know, most times from a reentry perspective, they say reentry starts from day one.
Right.
And that's how I saw it. Like you, I knew I was getting out. Even though at that time I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, nor could I even see the light switch. You know, because I had to do 20 some odd years. So I didn't. I knew it was a tunnel, but hell, I couldn't see down the tunnel.
Right.
But I knew again that I did not want anyone else to experience, if I could help them, this part of my life. Because, you know, we hear it all the time. We would wish this on our worst enemy.
That's right.
You know,
that's so much.
Because prison is that was, excuse my French, but that was hell.
I call it a torturous hell.
Man, that's even better. It was hell. And I knew I never wanted to go back. And I also knew that I wanted my story to have a better ending.
Yeah.
Than what was set forth for me.
No, man.
You know, I wanted to be able to tell my story. And at the end, I wanted people to notice or know that I triumphed.
That's right.
At the end, I made it. I literally made it, and I'm still making it.
That's
you
right.
can do this, because I've been on that other side. I've been on that side where I did not see, not only, I didn't see value in myself. I didn't think I was ever going to make it to a particular age. And I didn't see any reasoning why, didn't see the reason why I should even try. Because no one no one poured that into me.
Mm-hmm.
Prison, the people in prison taught me how to see those things that being out in the world didn't allow me to see.
Yeah, man.
Taught me to see the value in myself.
Yeah, man.
Taught me to see that I had something more to give to this world than just my ability to destroy.
Yeah.
I could uplift, I could pick, you know, I could build.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm choosing to do now, is build. And part of that building had to start with me rebuilding. No, not even rebuilding, because means to take you back to where you once was.
Mm-hmm.
It started with me building me.
Right, right. After having to, in a sense, destroy these aspects of yourself that brought you to the penitentiary, that brought you to the lows, almost, you know, making me think about reflecting on the 120, where they talk about build and destroy. You know, first you have to clear the land, clear the area before you can build on top of it, you know? And so, yeah, that's a heavy piece. How about, man, like, if you were to advise, say, some young brothers who have been to these low places where you and I have been, and we wanted to help them not have to go through the pain of the penitentiary to recognize themselves and learn to build and learn their value, what would be some things you'd tell them?
First of all, learn in the best way that you know how to pick and choose wisely who you seek that information from. Because not everyone has your best interests at heart. I was being advised by a lot of people before I went to prison, but oftentimes it was for nefarious purposes. They weren't being genuine. So when I got to prison, I was watching, before I even approached anyone or got approached, I spent time watching individuals. Because one of the things I learned while in prison and mentoring young boys, young Black males, is that they did not want to see anyone, they did not want to talk to anyone that they would perceive to be hypocritical or contradiction. So I had to walk the talk. I had to be who I said I was going to be. And they had to see this consistently. They couldn't wait. You know, I couldn't be talking this 1 minute, and when I'm out of their sight, they see me doing something else the next.
That's right.
So I would say to young men, especially anyone, you know, who has to experience what we've experienced, or before they have to experience that, is pick and choose who you want to listen to. First of all, decide when you want to listen. Because I had every opportunity. I was being told a lot of stuff, but I had to decide for myself when I wanted to listen. Decide for yourself when you're ready to listen to what's being said to you, and pick and choose wisely who you let say those things to.
And you know, that's heavyweight there too. But one of the things I'm thinking, and I guess playing the devil's advocate almost, is, you know, sometimes choosing when I want to listen, especially in this day and age, can be challenging because of all of the distractions, more so than, say, when guys like you and I were in our early 20s or late teens. You know, the distractions are just like insurmountable now, it seems.
Absolutely.
It makes it difficult for somebody to tap into themselves.
With that, I would say to people then, ask yourself, because we have to be brutally honest and start asking ourselves the hard questions. And one of those hard questions for me was, who do I want to be? Do I want to continue to be him? Because not only do a lot of people dislike his behavior, but hell, I dislike his behavior. So I don't want to continue to be him. But who do I want to be? And what helped me decide who that person was after I started learning about us as a people.
Yeah, man. Because
all of my life, all I ever heard about us as a people were very negative things. But when I got with these men who had already done the research and pointed me in the direction in which I needed to go so I could do the research for myself, I started learning that we always have been a beautiful people inside and out.
Yeah, man.
So when I saw the beauty in what it meant to be Black, and Black is just not a skin complexion for me, it's a mindset.
Come
I
on.
understand how Webster calls, when a lot of people don't want to be called Black because they believe in the definition or bought into the definition of Webster is evil and all that.
Yeah.
Damn that.
Yeah.
Our ancestors called themselves Black.
Yeah.
Not because of their skin color, but to me, like I say, it's a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned how important it was to be the right type of Black man,
Mm-hmm.
it helped me to better appreciate Black people overall.
Yeah, including oneself.
Including oneself, absolutely.
Yeah, and you saying that again takes me back to my own experiences and coming to that realization after working with some of the elders and realizing that these are the people that I'm an offspring of. I'm a descendant.
Absolutely.
And if they were great and if they were beautiful and they were capable, then hell, so am I. So let me start living this.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
Right in this hell. And these things that you're sharing that you would share with a young brother or young sister who might be going through some things, would this be anything different than, say, you might have shared with a young Anthony Boyd?
No, nothing different. If I could go back and talk to me, I needed to know, because I grew up in a time like you. This is why I don't use, in my opinion, the derogatory term nigga.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my belief, when I grew up, I started noticing that usually when we were getting into it with each other, we usually reduced each other to the lowest common denominator before we fought or what would cause harm. Mm-hmm. And to me, that lowest common denominator was a nigga.
Yeah, man.
So when I've started thinking about, okay, well, when we become enraged and want to fight each other, usually the only thing that makes us really want to, or gives us the power to fight, is when we reduce someone that looks like yourself to the least common denominator. Because when we reduce him to a nigga, he has no value.
That's right.
And we can harm things that have no value. We don't have a problem with that.
That's right.
But it was harder for me once I learned what it meant to call another Black man brother. Mm. It was harder for me to do harm to a Black man that bitch ass nigga, I hurt you. That's easy.
That's real easy.
It's hard to say bitch ass brother.
It don't even add up.
That's an oxymoron to me.
Absolutely.
It's hard to do that. Mm-hmm. and still feel enraged.
Yeah.
But if all I see in you is that bitch ass nigga, I see no value in you. So I can stay mad at you and do harm to you and not feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Hence why society has oftentimes tried to convince us that that's just what we are, niggas and bitches and hoes,
exactly.
Inmates, convicts, all of
Absolutely.
That, to devalue us. And you even think about in war times, opposing sides, they devalue each other. They call each other cockroaches or whatever in order to devalue them, to convince their followers that these people are not worth valuing.
Absolutely. That's why it makes it so easy, and for me, extremely hurtful for people who do not look like us to harm us because they don't see any value. Mm-hmm. They're just Negroes. They're niggers. They're whatever.
They don't remind anybody in my family, my community.
Exactly. They
history books.
They bring nothing to the table. And I'm assuming, because I never had that mindset, but I'm assuming, I teach as a life coach, people to constantly tell themselves, I'm enough. Mm-hmm. Because when you devalue, you don't feel like you're enough.
Right.
And that's believing you're not enough. It gives you it allows you to believe that whatever happens to you wouldn't matter to anyone.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I even teach my daughters that you are enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
You are enough. I even have to, I remind myself of that every single day,
Yeah.
because I am my hardest critic,
Yeah.
my
And
harshest critic.
you think about what you're saying too, man. Our subconscious keeps score.
Absolutely.
And so whatever we
Absolutely.
tell ourselves, our subconscious manifests that.
Absolutely.
So we have to feed ourselves the positive word, no matter what
Absolutely.
happens, you know,
Absolutely.
no matter what happens. And that's powerful, man. Yeah. You know, self-messaging. I'm part of a bicycling group, and this woman posted the other day, you know, positive self-talk works.
Absolutely.
And I responded to her, positive self-talk definitely works. And she was talking
No
about
doubt.
how she encouraged herself to cycle 20 miles. And I was thinking that's great, but I was coming from this perspective of saving my own life coming out of the penitentiary. I had to give myself positive self-talk, you know, positive
Absolutely.
self-talk. So
Absolutely. Because sometimes you're the only person that's going to give it to you.
at the end of the day, man, you
Yeah.
know, Brother Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds.
Man, powerful.
Yeah, man.
Powerful. Absolutely.
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 We have to free our minds. If we busy looking for pie in the sky or the spaceship or whatever, that ain't gonna save us. You know, we've been given the power to save ourselves.
It was only then, when I came into that understanding, it was only then that I realized that I could be a better version of myself,
Mhm.
because I like what I see now. I can look in that mirror and
Yeah,
smile
yeah, yeah,
because I like what I see, you know,
absolutely.
and I want this person to be what the world sees.
This little light of mine. Sir.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Anthony, if you could, you know, we're coming up on maybe about 5-6 minutes on our time together. And something critical I always ask folks, and that is, at least I think it's critical. And it's one of these self messages, I guess. And that is if your story was on a billboard or the cover of a book, what would it be entitled?
Hmm. For the 18 years that I did in the Michigan Department of Corrections,
Mhm.
I thought about that. And what I came up with during that time, and I still want to do something with it now, is it would have been entitled 18 Years and Some Change, because it was that 18 years that I spent in the Michigan Department of Corrections that I took the time out to find out who I was.
Mm.
And that 18
Years and
years
some
of
change.
self-discovery has benefited me to this very day. So it would be called 18 Years and Some Change.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that play on words too. And that's heavy too. And that change is perpetual and it's ongoing. You know,
Absolutely.
I think it was Prophet Muhammad, walaikum salam, who encouraged his followers to seek knowledge from cradle to grave.
Cradle to the grave. I am a firm believer
Yeah,
in that for all people, but especially Black people. Seek
absolutely.
knowledge from the cradle to the grave, the
Absolutely.
correct knowledge. Not before we go, I tell my daughters all the time.
Correct knowledge.
When they were kids, I used to tell them, and I tell my grandchildren, I will let the schools teach you. I'll educate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because there's a distinct difference.
Absolutely.
A distinct difference. And if I could just touch on that, educate comes from the word educere or educo, meaning to bring forth that which is latent.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I oftentimes tell people about the circus bear, and I say the circus bear is well taught, it's well trained, you know, but it's uneducated. It does not have knowledge of itself, of its own proclivities. And if it was to be released in the wilderness, it would perish.
Absolutely.
You know, so yo, it's been dope rapping with you, man.
Appreciate it, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So before we go, if people wanted to reach out to you, follow you, ask you to come speak or anything, how can people reach out to you?
Let me give you my email.
Yeah.
They can reach out to me, anthonyboyd2862@gmail.com, or they can reach out to me by a.boyd@impact, impact spelled IMPPACT.us.
A Boyd, and Boyd is spelled B-O-Y-D.
Yeah, A.Boyd. Yeah, and Boyd is spelled B-O-Y-D. A.boyd@impact.us.
Right on, right on. Any closing words, any parting wisdom or knowledge you'd like to drop before we sign off?
Just one thing for me. Doing it the right way, love really does conquer a lot of things. And I'm talking about experiencing love in its truest form. Does really conquer a lot of things, because I'm able to love people now. I may not always like what they do, but I'm able to love a whole slew of people that I didn't once like. I'm able to love them now.
And I bet you that's because Anthony loves Anthony.
Oh my God, I had to.
Yeah, man.
Had to.
Right on. And with that, man, we're going to call it a wrap.
That's a beauty. I appreciate that, brother. Take care. We're going to keep in touch. I got to get back to work because my phone has been blowing up. So, brother,